If you are a deer hunter, you are well aware how your passion changes from September to December. Weather, patterns, even the deer themselves change over a few months. Is there a way to beat those changes and stay ahead of the curve?
What you see in October is not what you're going to see in November.
If you're a deer hunter and you don't like the weather, well, just stick around because it's going to change.
This is Land of Whitetail TV. A deer hunter will wait for fall with anticipation. The spring will be filled with creating food plots, clover fields, and watching your land to see what's happening. The summer months are spent taking care of that land, setting cameras, and preparing yourself to take that shot in September or October. Once it arrives, the early fall is utopia for most hunters. Despite the heavy cover, the opportunity to sit and watch from a stand makes all the work over the last 6 months well worth it.
I've been hunting whitetails for more than 40 years. I grew up in northern Minnesota, hunted with my family, have a strong tradition of hunting deer. Yes, it's my job, but it's also my passion. And the neat thing about hunting deer, it's like so many other things. It's like playing golf. It's a learning experience that never ends. And there's always something the whitetails are going to teach you. Every year that goes by, I learn something new.
Don't think that just because the temperature is warmer than what it's supposed to be, that in the afternoon you still can't catch mature buck movement. You can. The key is to know where they're coming from and where they're going and set up somewhere in between. You do that and you got a pretty good chance of killing that early season buck, even in pretty hot temperatures.
The Midwest is a great example of how changing seasons affect deer and how you hunt them. Let's start in Illinois, a place with a great reputation, but tougher hunting than most realize.
Illinois itself, kind of a myth, because you really have to do your homework on Illinois to find out where those big bucks are.
For years, people flocked to Illinois. They'd heard about the big bucks. Big bucks were coming out in Boone and Crockett and Pope and Young faster than they could print the books. But nowadays, people question that.
Illinois really isn't overhunted when you look at the bigger picture. There's a lot of public land in Illinois, especially along the Mississippi River. But what most people think of is the Golden Triangle. Private land, outfitters, yeah, that can get overhunted very quickly. You might be asking yourself, how do things change in Illinois from season to season? Well, if you're there in October and you're hunting the bow season, if you're stand hunting, which most people are going to be doing, you're probably gonna be hunting a clover plot or some early season forage. You get to November, it's all back about carbohydrates for deer, but they're gonna be packing it on. You're gonna want something like soybeans, something like corn that you can hunt over, because that's what's gonna really be drawing these deer once those temperatures start dropping.
Deer need to escape, and they need a place to grow old without being pressured and the chance of them getting shot before they reach maturity. So Illinois is no different than any other place in that aspect. It has great genetics, food potential, whether it's the agricultural field next door or the food plot you put in over the summer, it's all good stuff. But you need to have good refuge cover and don't invade it. You do that, Illinois will keep producing big bucks just like its neighbor in Iowa, another neighbor up north, Wisconsin, a Midwest Great Plains place like Kansas. They will all produce those deer given the right ingredients are used correctly.
So I'm hunting with my friend Steve Bartilla. We're in Brown County. It's the epicenter of big deer and lots of deer, Illinois. We're there, it's kind of on the cusp of things. You know, the weather really wasn't that good. Hey, I'm not gonna lie to you, Steve put us on a great area. He manages 3,000 acres of the best deer hunting land in North America, in my opinion, and it didn't disappoint. The weather was difficult, but we put in our time, and lo and behold, we had a great opportunity.
Land of Whitetail is brought to you by Cuddyback, more deer, fewer blanks. Analogics, protect your herd with the power of science. Thompson Center, America's master gunmakers. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. And by Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry technology. Apply, dry it, and go hunt.
You know, if you see me on deer and deer hunting, you know I get a little bit shaky every time I shoot a deer. We got a big time shake coming for you.
This is Land of Whitetail TV.
As serious hunters, we all realize that, man, when that cold front comes through, it's time to get up in a stand. That cold front, it gets our juices flowing and it gets the deer's juices flowing as well. Even in mid-October, don't be afraid to try to hunt a little rut action as long as you've got that cold front coming through. Does that spur estrus and does? Heck no, it doesn't. But it gets the bucks in the right frame of mind and they start exhibiting a brief flurry of rut behavior. The key is when your temperature's been hovering around here day after day after day after day after day after day, and boom, you've got that 10, 15, 20 degree temp drop, get your tail out in the woods because odds are it's going to be a real fun sit. Now, as we get in later in the season, the same thing applies. You get to late season and that is your salvation, that cold front. Whitetails have evolved to maximize their odds of survival. Part of that is during the rut, a mature buck is going to lose 25 to 30% body weight and he still has to go ahead and try to survive winter. When you get that brutally cold stretch, those mature bucks tend to get up earlier and head for that food source in the afternoon hours so that they can stay bedded, so they can return back to their beds during the colder portions of the 24-hour cycle, which is in the middle of the night and first thing in the morning. So that cold front late season is a very powerful incentive to get them up because they're going to burn less calories that day if they feed a little bit earlier. Watch the weather. Watch the changes. Learn to use that to your advantage and you're going to take your hunting to another level.
What happens is places like Illinois is the fact that a lot of people go hunt there after the word leaks out. Outfitters are bringing in more clients, relatives are allowing more people on their land, and what that all adds up and equals to are younger bucks just aren't making it into that old age class. They're getting culled before they can grow to maturity. Now, most bucks have to reach 4.5 years of age before you see their true potential. And then they really add on the character at 5.5, 6.5, 7.5 years of age. But if you're shooting them at 2.5 and 3.5 years of age, and that happens in more places than just Illinois, then the true potential doesn't come out. Are the good days over for Illinois? Well, not necessarily.
There very easily can be deer back in, that there should be deer bedded in here.
So I'm hunting with my friend Steve Bartilla. We're in Brown County. It's the epicenter of big deer and lots of deer, Illinois. We're there, it's kind of on the cusp of things. You know, it was, the weather really wasn't that good. Just because you hunt a deer utopia doesn't mean it's a slam dunk. There isn't a deer behind a fence, and it's not a guaranteed thing. That's how this hunt was. It was not easy. We sat there for a couple days, you know, dealing with the weather, not seeing a lot of deer. We did see some deer, a couple bucks came in, and this is how it always happens, doesn't it? We're sitting there, we're watching a couple does and fawns come out of the woods. They come into the soybeans, they start feeding, we're getting cold, just kind of biding our time, not really paying attention. How many times does this happen? Bam, there's a buck standing right there. Don't move. The windows are all frosted over. I'm starting to shake. I shake at everything. Everybody knows that. I get excited. He's standing there and he is a dandy of a buck. One that we want to take, definitely. Got to get the windows open on the blind, not a sure thing, kind of spook him a little bit. He goes off into the field, starts calming down a little bit, just enough for me to get in position for a shot. I'm a nervous guy when it comes to deer hunting. I love deer hunting so much, and the sight of any deer gets my heart racing. The sight of a big buck standing there within bow range really gets me excited. So I'm shaking. I mean, I don't know, you could call it buck fever, call it whatever you want. It's cold, the adrenaline surging through me, and the stress starts building. Because for me to get that window open, the cameraman's trying to get on the deer. I'm telling him, don't spook the deer. I'm trying to get the gun out the window. I got a good enough hold on the deer to make the shot. Wow, this is a really cool experience. You know, I don't know how guys can go out there and look at deer and, you know, they pinpoint a deer they've been seeing all year long and shoot them and not have that emotion. To me, it's just pure emotion. We kind of peek over the creek bank there, and there he's laying down in the middle of the creek.
He's right there. We got him. He's dead.
We go up there, and he's way bigger than I thought. People say about ground shrinkage. This deer was bigger and bigger as we get up to him, and I pick him up. I just see the mass on his frames, see the tines, fully mature deer. Very cool.
Illinois gun season. It does not get, he has got just great mass, chocolate rack. Awesome, awesome deer. This was one of my best gun deer. My best slug gun deer by far. What a dandy buck. Holy cow.
Coming up next,
That buck, he comes out on a string just the way he's supposed to, despite it being the last day of season. Why? Because we have kept pressure to a minimum in that deer woods.
this is Land of Whitetail TV. If you are a deer hunter, you know how the change in seasons affect whitetails. It also affects what they eat and what food they are looking for.
Are food plots essential to your hunting? Early season, late season? Yes, they can be if you don't have food otherwise.
If you're a deer hunter and you don't like the weather, just stick around because you know it's going to change at some point.
You want a magic formula for cold weather hunting? It's as simple as this: staying put and putting in your time. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It is really hard to sit out there in sub-zero temperatures and wait on a deer. But if you have yourself in the right spot, it's just a matter of time until that deer is going to show up.
Here it is, last day of firearm season. I've got a buck tag to fill. The only time I should be heading to a field edge to go ahead and hunt in this type of situation is when I'm expecting deer to come piling out of one side of the woods, cross the field, and shoot them before they get to the other woods. Now, that's not the case here. I'm actually, on the last day of season, I am hunting natural movement. Frankly, it's these types of hunts that get under the skin of a lot of viewers because they know this isn't normal. Trust me, I know as well. I spend 25% of each season hunting public land, another 25% hunting normal ground. If you try these tactics in those situations, you're going to be lucky to see a squirrel come out. So let's examine a little bit how this came to be. How is it that this is a solid hunting tactic in this specific situation? Well, that's because the entire block of woods happens to be one of my long-term clients' sanctuaries. I set it up so that we do not step foot in this woods. That doesn't mean we don't hunt it hard. You darn right we hunt it hard. But we hunt it in a low-impact manner. We don't go deep into the woods. We make it so that we can get into our stance, hunt our stance, and get out without ever having a deer realize you're there. I'm only set up 200 yards away from the road. On the other side of the road, God love them, 100% they're right. A family group of meat hunters that go out and just have fun. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. As a matter of fact, those hunters should be applauded for it. But at the same time, they trash their woods. They're trashing their woods. It's the last day of season, yet 200 yards away, I'm sitting on the edge of a wide open field in the back corner. And that buck
is willing to step foot out on that food source during wide open legal shooting hours. Now, why? Because he feels safe there. They're not moving over there during legal shooting hours in the wide open on a consistent basis, but they are on our side despite it being the last day of firearms season and the temperatures being overly high. So when that buck came out, I was not surprised. He was following the script. Do they always follow the script? Heck no, but this one chose to. I'm hunting a food plot that's actually tucked in the back corner of a larger farm field. That buck, he comes out on a string just the way he's supposed to, despite it being the last day of season. Why? Because we have kept pressure to a minimum in that deer woods. We've hunted the area around the deer woods pretty darn hard, but we've hunted it in a low impact manner. So despite the fact that it's a little bit warm out, despite the fact that it's the last day of firearm season, so when he steps out, I was ready. All I had to do is put myself in position, take a good shot, steady my nerves, and then take that good shot and actually dump him in the field. Keys are making them feel safe by hunting in a very low impact manner and then providing them everything they want and need. It worked. Frankly, it couldn't have worked out any better, and man, was that ever a nice way to end that last day of firearms season.
Coming up next, perfecting your setup in growing big and what you should be doing right now to get ready for the season. This is Land of Whitetail TV. Land of Whitetail is brought to you by Cuddyback, more deer, fewer blanks. Analogics, protect your herd with the power of science. Thompson Center, America's master gunmakers. Hornady, accurate, deadly, dependable. And by Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry technology. Apply, dry it, and go hunt. Growing Big with Steve Bartilla.
Always ask yourself, what can I do to make this stand location better? You do that, there's almost always little things you can do, and those little things add up to a big difference. We've spent a lot of time on Growing Big talking about hinge cutting, and there's a good reason. That hinge cutting, it goes ahead and massively thickens up your woods, it bumps your browse level, it makes your bucks work harder to try to find does, all sorts of good things. And as far as what we're talking about today, we can edge feather around those food plots, we can create blockades, we can leave openings in the edge feathering and blockading to encourage deer to move through the areas we want them to, and to also discourage them from moving through areas that, you know what, aren't safe wind directions for us as hunters. That is good, that is great, that is a very powerful tool, because every single time as managers, we have the power when we set a tree stand to ask ourselves, what can we do to make this stand location even more productive? Such as creating that opening in the edge feathering 20 yards in a safe wind direction with an easy shooting range. Okay. But that's not all we can do. Let's say, for sake of example, that we've got a stand on one side of a cornfield. There's also cover on the other side of the cornfield, and the deer are going back and forth. I'll tell you what, if it's your corn and you're willing to sacrifice it, or if you have a farmer renting your crop ground, buy back just enough corn that you can go ahead and drive an ATV across that cornfield, across all those rows. Have you ever tried walking across a cornfield with a tree stand on your back? Imagine if you're a buck with an 18, 19 inch spread. You know, that's a pain. You know, it is a pain for us, it's a pain for them. You create that path of least resistance connecting point A to point B, and bingo, the deer are just plain gonna use it.
There's no argument, scent elimination products, hey, they add to your overall hunting budget. That's why it's a good idea to look for something that maybe has a little bit of dual purpose, adds a little bit more benefit, lasts longer in your budget. Well, Wildlife Research has a great product called Scent Killer Gold with Hunt Dry technology. Now, it gets rid of 99% of human odor, eliminates it. But once it dries, and it's drying right now after I sprayed it, it will last for up to 10 days. That means you don't have to spray yourself down every time you get out of the truck and head into the woods. Now, a lot of hunters will say, you really don't need to spray down when you're rifle hunting. And maybe in some cases that's true, but what if you're hunting up in the breaks like we are here, and your scent blows down into a gully or a coulee? Or I'm heading into the whitetail woods to try a little bit of rattling. It's just like bow hunting. This area has thick cover, and you just never know, again, when a swirl of wind will send your scent towards a whitetail. Eliminating it with a product like this makes sure that you're going to get the shot, and they are not going to get the edge on you with that great nose.
Be sure to check deer and deer hunting out online and on Facebook.